Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're seeing this. I hope you're having a great day. I sure as hell know I am. Today I'm going to be going over what is potentially my new favorite commander deck because of how hyper aggressive it is. For the commander, it is going to be Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, or as I like to call it, Roronoa Zoro, the commander. Find out here in a bit. Okay, right before I get into this deck tech, I'm going to be informing you all about some medicinal values of marijuana to the best of. Okay, right before I get into this deck tech, I'm going to be informing you all about some medicinal values of marijuana to the best of my ability for this strand that I could find anyway. Whenever I continue on with this, I'm going to be smoking on vanilla fribbles, which has about 20-25 THC. Mine specifically has 23. It has about 1 to 2 terps. Mine has 1.5. It gives a vanilla lavender sweet type of taste. The positives of smoking this strand will be give you a sleepy, relaxed, tingly type of feel. The potential negatives of this strand is it potentially might give you dry eyes, mouth, and might feel a little bit dizzy. I could not find the genetics of this. I do know it is a indica dominant, a 60-40 split, and I couldn't find the terpenes for this strand. So to break down this commander for y'all, the overall deck has a 2.97 CMC. Of the 10 groups you see here, there are 8 which are not land-based, and Valduk, Keeper of the Flame reads, at the beginning of combat, on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the end of at the beginning of the next turn. With this specific deck, there are 21 lands, basic lands that is. There are 3 search lands, which are Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, and Myriad Landscape. For the next set of lands to get it down to 8, excluding these, is lands that double up my red mana in one way or another. Balduvian Trading Post. Here's the battlefield. Sacrifice a untapped mountain, tap for a colorless and a red. Dormant Volcano. Same thing, but it's a bounce land. Whoops. Dwarven Hold. Enters tapped and is a storage land. Can leave it untapped, or leave it tapped to put a storage counter. Mercadian Bazaar. Enters battlefield tap and tap it to place a storage counter. Remove any number of storage counters. Sandstone Needle. Enters with 2 depletion counters. Remove a depletion counter, add 2 red mana. And then last up is, it's actually technically 11 and 9, because I also have utility lands. Which first one up is Castle Embereth. It bumps up my elementals. Handwear Battlements. Grants haste. Really the other thing doesn't matter because I don't have it in the deck. Memorial to War. Destroy a land if someone has something prominent. Rogue's Passage. Make sure to get damage through no matter how that goes about. And so Kenzone Crucible of Defiance. It's basically just another mountain, and if I need it to be, I can have it create 2 spirits. Last thing in the utilities is Fine Rock Null. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards, place 1 under it. Whenever a opponent is dealt 7 or more damage, I can play that card for a red mana. Doesn't seem like much, but it is technically another form of draw. So place those face down, and first thing up is going to be our mana ramp, or mana rocks for most of them. There are 2 or 3, I think, that are non-mana ramp-esque or mana rock. So, first one up, one of the most powerful cards in the format. Soul Ring. If you're running any type of deck, you're running this basically. Fire Diamond. It's a 2-mana artifact that taps for a red. Prismatic Lens, basically the same thing, but for a colorless. That's really all it is just really quick mana. Heraldic Banner. It's 3, but it gives a half Anthem effect, where it's +1/+0 for the chosen color, and does that color. In this deck, we're trying to be very hyper aggressive with the elementals we generate, and take a lot of combat steps and double/triple up the amount of mana, or not mana, damage we do in this deck. Next up is a alternate win con, being Strixhaven Stadium. There's been points where I've literally created 16 elementals by copying Valduk's effect 4 times in this deck, and just straight up kill someone, because why the hell not? And then it also places counter on it for whenever you tap it for mana, which is always a good thing. Gets you a little bit closer to taking someone out of the game. Next up, Commander Sphere adds a red, sacrifice it, draw a card. One of the things that this deck tends to struggle with, if I don't have the specific pieces, is it can run out of hand. So, like to include a lot of draw. Worn Power Stone, pay 3 for 2. Kind of same thing with, I don't even know what I'm talking about for that. It's just good mana. You're getting back at least more than half of what you put into it. So, worth it. Hedron Archive, same thing. Also draws a card. Treasonous Ogre. Okay, so this is one of the last things I actually ended up putting in here recently. And, oh my god, this Ogre gave me a turn 4 win. Because I basically had 4 mana, or my starting hand was 3 lands, Godo, and like 2 equip spells. Drew into the Ogre on my 3rd turn. I was like, wait, I win next turn because I just played the Ogre with my 4th mana, pay 33 life it was, play Godo, get Helm, equip it, and play 1 mana equipment onto Valduk. Oh wait, no, it would be more life than that, but you know what I'm meaning. Like 36 damage, and then took infinite combat steps and generated infinite creatures to add trample and haste on turn 4. I was not expecting that whenever I first made it. And then next card up is something I actually ended up adding today from one of my other decks, but I feel like it'll ultimately play out with how this deck kind of wants to function, which is Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion. 4 mana, trample, 5/4. When it deals combat damage, discard any amount of cards from your hand. Draw that many. Add that much red mana for the amount you discarded. With how low this deck is, I can literally just get rid of like 4 cards in my hand, draw another 4, and play 2 out of it easily. And then I still drew 2 from that. It's kind of crazy whenever you start placing things together. Another thing before I continue, what I'm going to say is I do have a couple of proxies, or not proxies, but proxies that I ended up using with index card. The cards are on the way. I couldn't get them before I wanted to record this. Just deal with it, it's my channel, whatever. So with that being said, Leyline Tyrant, 2 red for a 4/4 flyer. I don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. When this creature dies, pay any amount of red mana. When I do, deal that much damage to a target. That is so broken, because what I can do is I can literally just tap out my mana, stock up for a turn or two, which by then I'll probably have a lot more mana, and then just sink it by whatever I drew into, because I don't have to worry about mana as much. And the last thing that is kind of a really good, like, grind-esque combo piece for this deck, Thermopod. 4 red, 4/3. Can pay Snow Mountain to, or Snow Mana to give it haste. Sacrifice a creature, add a red mana. With how many Valduk triggers I'm getting per turn, I can easily add another 5 mana to my pool consistently. So that is the mana ramp section of this deck. Place that back there. Let me move Valduk so where y'all can see it. I am going to have a video edited version of all the cards so that you can personally read them. And then also, I'll have a link down below to have basically all the mock-ups I ended up doing for this deck to get up to this point. And for every other deck I create is also going to be on that link. I'm just going to be doing the same thing I did with this one. And each of the renditions of this deck range from $70 to $200. And with that, you could easily switch out a couple of cards from some of the budget renditions and have a really mean deck. So the next group up that I'm going to be having is draw spells. As I said earlier, sometimes you can run out of a hand. First one up is going to be Renegade Tactics. Target creature can't block this turn, draw a card. It's a 1 mana draw card. And then basically all of these other cards say the exact same thing. Excluding Runa Speed. It's a 1 and a red, and no matter what, you're going to be getting +1/+0 and haste, draw a card. It's not really much for the haste enabler, because you don't really need haste in this deck, because Valduk generates tokens with haste. And then you really just use it for the pump and then the draw card. Simplest way to put it. Next up is going to be Wild Guess. This is what I was meaning earlier. 2, 3 mana, discard a card, draw 2. Same thing for Thrill of Possibility. 2 mana, discard, draw 2. Blackjack Revelation. Discard a card, draw 2. This one for 3, but it also has flashback. Mask of Memory. This is one of the exceptions. Deal combat damage, draw 2 cards, discard a card. You're plussing in that scenario. Tormenting Voice. Now we're back to the previous one. Discard, draw 2. Man, are we sure this is a commander deck, especially with how many cards of the same copy I have? But the last card is Infiltration Lens. Deals combat damage, draw 2 cards. Or no, it becomes blocked. My apologies, not deals combat damage. When it becomes blocked, draw 2 cards. And reason this is so good in Valduk is it's play your mountain, play a Soul Ring, get out Infiltration Lens. have one left over, equip it to Valduk. It's easy as that. So after the draw section is going to be my stun spells, which there are 5 of them in specific. These are a little more situational, I'll say, but as a overall consistent pod, or not consistent pod, but consistent power level, and for just random like playgroups that you go to for your LGS and whatnot, like these would, in my opinion, are the best. Which, of course, I have Blood Sun and Blood Moon. Oh, shit. That wasn't Blood Moon. Blood Moon. Blood Sun. Draw a card. All lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. Blood Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. If you're playing a 2, 3, 4, 5 color deck, they're not going to have fun with this. Especially with these two. After that, Goblin War Drum. Creatures I control only can be blocked by 2 or more creatures. They're 3/1s, so in every sense of the word, I am pretty much netting out of that. Because, well, they're going to have to double up on blockers for 3/1s that are leaving the turn. Which, in retrospective, is kind of fucking dumb. Next card up, Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. It's a legendary creature for 3 red, 5 mana in total. It's a legendary creature, Ogre Warrior. When a creature attacks, if I'm defending player, create a 3/3 Ogre, unless they pay 3. This is another form of mono red stacks, because they can't attack me without me getting a blocker. And no matter what that is, if they're attacking with multiple creatures, I'm getting multiple blockers, because more than likely they're not going to pay 6 mana for their 4/4s to go through. I just don't see, like, I'm going to either get a blocker and block it, or I'm just going to let it go through and clap back on the next turn, which, with it, this deck can take that 3/3 and then just turn it into 2, 4, 6, 9, 80. This deck can spit out 152 damage from, like, because I think I have 4 doublers and a triple for sources I control. But that's legging it on too much. Last card, Shivan Dragon. 1 and a red for an enchantment. 1 and a red, sack a creature. Destroy target non-basic land. Going back into those 2, 3, 4 color, 5 color pods, any of those are non-basic lands. And you can have a heyday, especially if you create 8 elementals and sack 4 of them for mana with Thermopod. Activate Shivan Harvest twice and just blow up the lands they're needing. It's kind of ridiculous. Next group up is going to be the Broken Equip cards. Honestly, I had a lot more equipments in here and equipping enchantments, but as I slowly evolved the deck, I realized I only needed a couple of equipments and enchantments to really overset it. First one up is being Bloodforged Battle Axe. This thing is so fucking good in this deck, because when the creature deals combat damage, generate a copy of Bloodforged Battle Axe. So you're just doubling the amount of Bloodforged battle axes you have per turn. And they're all equipped to Valduk. Yes, you're going to have to pay the 2 mana to equip it, but that's whatever. Especially whenever you have like 16 copies of Bloodforged battle axe. It is so absurd. Next one up. This is one of the other cards that really fucking overset this deck, in my opinion. Skull Clamp. Pay 1, draw 2. That's all this card really says, in my opinion. Go to combat, create an elemental. Have Skull Clamp on field, go to main phase 2, don't even attack. Equip the Skull Clamp, draw 2. There's been a couple of games where I've played with this deck, and I have drawn 60 cards with this. It is so absurd. And then I'm going to just go through it. Haste enablers that can't let it be targeted. So, yeah. And the reason I call this Roronoa Zoro, the deck, is because I run triple swords. 3 sword style. The only one that I'll probably switch this out for is Sinew and Steel, for the one that no, Truth and Justice is right there. I believe it's Green Black is the really expensive one, but overall you have protection from 4 colors with these 3: blue, green, white, red. Hold on. Black, red, white, blue, green. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, you have protection from all colors. White, blue. Yeah, all colors. That was a... yeah, that was a moment. Then the two things that the other 2 things that break this deck: Darksteel Plate, indestructible. Commander has indestructible. No more board wipes. No more -1/-1 counters. Only thing is exile, which kind of sucks and is a feels bad moment because that's really your biggest protection piece. And Helm of the Host. Do I want multiple Valduks to generate a shit ton more elementals? Do I want more Godos? Spoilers, he's in there. Or do I want multiple of these? Harmonic Prodigy, which double the effect of wizards and shamans I control. It's kind of ridiculous. But before I get into the doublers group, I'm going to be going into the burn group. Keswick Flame Breather. Cast a non-creature spell, deal 1 to each opponent. Simple enough. With how many instants, sorceries, artifacts, and enchantments I run in this deck, that goes up really quickly, especially with them all being 1, 2, 3 drop mana. Next card up is Curse of Shagan Faith. Your opponent that you choose for this curse can only cast 1 spell per turn unless they want to take 2. Impact Tremors. With this, I ended up looking up the ruling, and whenever I generate 6 elementals, Impact Tremors is going to trigger for each of them. So 6 damage like that. One really underrated card in this deck that I really think is Throne of the God Pharaoh. 2 mana. Legendary artifact at the beginning of the end step. Each opponent loses 1 life for the number of tapped creatures I control. So stack the triggers so that you get Valduk's trigger at end step, and then Throne of the God Pharaoh. For the number of elementals you attacked with, an opponent takes one. And then they go away. Yeah, it's stupid. I really like this deck. Next up is Embermaw Hellion. If a red source I control would deal combat damage, that much plus 1. So technically my 3/1s became 4/1s. Yeah. Tunnel Ignis. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if another land had entered the battlefield from before, they take 3. So their shock land, or their fetch land into shock land that just did 3, now technically did 6. Oh, you want to play Terramorphic Expanse? Have to wait a turn, crack it. Or you're going to take 3. Immolation Shaman. This is something I actually have to read because it is such a weird worded. When an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, land, or creature, if it is not a mana ability, its owner takes 1. So think of how many different things that hits. If you're not a mana dork, a mana rock, they're going to take 1. And the second part of this card is not really as relevant, but you can pay 3 red. This creature gets +3/+3 and menace till end of turn. It is a 1/3 for 1 and a red. Harsh Mentor. Basically the same thing, but it's 2 this time. 1 and a red for a 2/2. Goblin Bombardment. Kind of the same thing with the Throne of the God Pharaoh. Stack the triggers so that Valduk, Throne of the God, or Goblin Bombardment, Throne of the God Pharaoh. Get your Throne of God Pharaoh, deal 1 for each. Sacrifice all of the elementals that would be leaving, deal 1 for each. So that 3 just became 5. If I have Embermaw Hellion, that's 2. It really just spirals damage out of control. And then the last card is Battle Strain. When an opponent, or when a creature blocks, deal 1 damage to that creature's controller. Yeah, this is... the best way I can describe this deck is it is a life taxation deck in mono red. And it really, really sucks to be the opponent of this deck, I won't lie. Next theme up is going to be my doublers. Effect doublers, damage doublers, stuff like that. Harmonic Prodigy, already talked about it. Wizard Shaman gets doubles the effect. Also has prowess. Insult Injury. I've never used the injury side of this effect. Damage can't be prevented this turn. If an opponent would take damage, double it. Quest of Pure Flame. Whenever a creature deals combat damage, place a counter on it. Remove 4. Double damage till end of turn. Dark Dweller Oracle. Creature for 1 red. Sack a creature. Exile the top card of the library. Can play it this turn. It's fake card draw. And for 1 mana, it's pretty nice, especially since I'm getting my creatures for free, basically. Psionic Resonator. Copy triggered ability for 2 mana. And it enters for 2. Copy Valduk. Simple as that. Relentless Assault. Untap. Attack again. Because I get an additional combat step, I get an additional Valduk trigger. Lithoform engine. It can copy instants, permanents, triggers. You can see how that's really good in this deck. Creature with violence, 2 red red. If a creature I control would deal damage, double it. Berserker's Onslaught, 3 red red. Attacking creatures I control have double strike. So yeah, these are going to start doing a lot of damage. Karlach, Fury of Arvanus. Gives me an additional combat step. Fire Emancipation, triple damage. And then this group really doesn't have a name, excluding the what I consider it as synergy breaking bombs, where they basically kind of add a little bit here and there to really kind of offset the balance of this deck. Talani Summoner, 1 red. Ascend, if I have 10 or more permanents, get the City's Blessing. Whenever it attacks, I may pay X red. If I do, create X11 elementals. If I have exile them at the end of turn, unless I have the City's Blessing. Culling Days, artifact. Sacrifice a creature, charge counter. Pay 1, sacrifice Culling Days, draw a card for each counter on it. Sundial of the Infinite. Pay 2 for it, and then 1 and tap it in the turn. It allows me to keep my elementals. One thing I ended up finding out is I was able to stack the triggers so that I could get my Throne of the God Pharaoh on instep and use Sundial of the Infinite before I had to exile my elementals. So each turn I was able to keep my elementals on field while also dealing the damage. Spawning Pit. Whenever the elementals are going to be exiled at end of turn, might as well sacrifice it, put a charge counter. Pay 1, remove 2 charge counters, put a 2/2 spawn token onto the battlefield. Kari's expertise. Gain control of target creature or vehicle till end of turn. May cast or untap it, gains haste, and then I may cast a 2 or less permanent from hand without paying cost. Godo searches out Helm, gives me additional combats. What we love. Descent of Dragons. This card turns all of my elementals into 4/4 flyers. This is where, like, this Godo and then this last card right here are kind of why I labeled this section bombs, because with it, the Descent of Dragons, I'm getting the 4/4 flyers. Depending on the amount of elementals I have on field, that's practically my game. And then the last one I have for the synergy breaking bombs is Apex of Power. 10 mana, draw 7, get 10 mana. Play like 5 cards off the top of my deck, because why the fuck not? Either or. Last card that I have for this deck is Ogre Battle Driver. When a creature enters the battlefield under my control, that creature gets +2 +0 and haste till end of turn. It's a haste enabler, practically the best one for it. Real main reason I use it though is it turns my 3/1 elementals into 5/1 elementals, which is a little bit scary. Either or, y'all, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Let me know what you thought of this deck down below, and for each of the different renditions of this will also be down below. Talk to y'all later. Peace.